Wait, is this still a problem? Okay, it doesn't look to be as much of a problem. Okay, good, 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 good. I'm just gonna be to share the new. Hmm. Um, there we go. Let me go and delete the old one. Sorry about this. This is a lot of technical stuff. It's technical Monday. Yeah. Where I screw up on everything and do my best to deal with the stuff. But yeah, uh, sorry about this. I keep pressing buttons, apparently. I keep pressing buttons and screwing up. Let me shrink this because I don't think YouTube and OBS. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I want to rant about this more because I'm still angry, but also more importantly, I'm still angry. But yeah, it's very I don't like this. So, this is a recent thing that happened that I don't know how much this was talked about. I don't know how much I noticed this. Um, it's like this, and yeah. So it's the day before. So this Thursday, Supreme Court BS. That I had somehow failed to pay attention to, probably because I was adjusting to being back home. Um, so it appears that the Supreme Court is not siding with previous rulings. I mean, Supreme Court currently not going with previous rulings. That's not shocking. This is about voter ID laws. And yes, I will get to abortion as well. The Supreme Court is just awful. Currently. Possibly in the past as well. But yeah, so in this is essentially saying that North Carolina's view on election laws is more important than the civil rights of black people. That's the general gist of this as far as I can tell. So it says a lot of technical fancy wancy terms. Merits and dispute, adequate question procedure. Are two leaders of North Carolina state legislature entitled to participate in the case under the terms of federal rules of procedure? Within white constitutional law, the states are free to choose to structure themselves as they wish. So, this is completely ignoring the fact that they, under federal grounds, they are not supposed to bypass. Oh no, I forgot my. Voting Rights Act of 1965, but 15th Amendment. Yes. So, the 15th Amendment has generally been the constitutional, the part of the Constitution that's been used by the Supreme Court to turn down acts, a lot of ID acts, because they're very clearly based off of race and set up to be based off race. So, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. The Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So, so this whole, like, states are free to structure themselves as they wish. Not true. And this is mentioned by Justice Gorsuch. This old, creepy looking white dude. Anyways, often they choose to conduct their affairs through a variety of branches, agencies, and elected appointed officials. These constituent pieces sometimes work together to achieve shared goals, like racism. Other times they reach very different judgments about important policy questions and act accordingly. It can also pose its difficulties when a state's laws or policies are challenged in federal court. Yes, but they're supposed to be challenged in federal court according to the 15th Amendment. You see, in the 15th, actually, kind of important. Which is, yeah, it's bad. Suppose someone says inconsistent with the federal constitution. Generally, the states from suit in. Suppose someone seeks to attack a state law on the grounds that is inconsistent with federal constitution. Generally, states themselves are immune from suit in federal court. Yeah, maybe they generally are, but the right of citizens in the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. Arguably, I would make the argument that this is technically people shouldn't have their right to vote taken away for having been in prison, because as a sort of condition, you can make an argument that is a condition of servitude. Although not necessarily the original condition of servitude mentioned, but yeah. And see Sussman versus. I will see this. Religious slander. Traditional assessment of Texas presidents made sued respondents, the state and prison officials seeking injunctive and monetary relief under RLE held states in accepting federal funding do not consent to waive their sovereign immunity to private suits for money damages. Yeah, this isn't a private suit. So, this is blatantly wrong. This is not. States themselves are not immune from suits with regarding people's rights. Usually, plaintiff will sue the individual state officials most responsible for person law in question, seek productive verdict. Despite their history, state will, as a practical matter, often retain a strong interest in law. After all, to defend. Still, not every state has structured itself this way. Okay, but like, facts of the case also divided the state. Yeah, this is a lot of nothing. This is a lot of filler. In November 2018, the people of North Carolina amended the state constitution to provide that voters offering to vote in person shall present photographic identification. The people further provide that the General Assembly shall enact general laws governing the requirements of such photographic identification, which may include exceptions. Consistent with that, exceptions are white. Consistent with that directive, the General Assembly eventually approved Senate Bill blah blah blah. Under that law's terms, those seeking to vote must do one of three things: present an acceptable photo ID, complete a provisional ballot, and later produce a photo ID, or submit a form explaining why they cannot present a photo ID, a form likely involving lots of hoops. Photo ID cards are available free of charge in each of the state's 100 counties without the need for corroborating documentation. I don't. Oh, so as added by. Why do I not believe that this as being North Carolina? So it's no fee if you are legally blind, over 70 years old, homeless, or had a license that was canceled by disability or disease. No VID for citizens. Yeah, so like you need proof of developmental disabilities. Individuals who are legally blind must present a letter from a physician. Individuals who are homeless must present a letter from the director or of a facility that provides care or shelter to the homeless that verifies the person is homeless. Yeah, this is not free of charge without the need for corroborating documentation. This is an blatant, absolute lie. No. After the law's passage, the governor vetoed the bill. The General Assembly responded by overriding that veto. The next day, the NAACP sued the governor and the members of the State Board of Elections. The governor and And by the way, this documentation very much must not have a current driver's license, must be a resident of North Carolina, must be able to provide your identity, social security number, and North Carolina residency. Two forms of identification. Yeah, this is an absolute lie. This is the NAACP sued the governor and the members of the state board of education. The governor points. Yeah, the NAACP rightfully sued this because the rights of citizens in the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So, because of that, this is blatantly trying to make it so it's harder for poor people and especially people of color to vote, which is why the NAACP rightfully sued North Carolina. The state's attorney assumed the responsibility, like the blah blah blah. Suing the Speaker of the State House of Representatives and President pro tempore tempora of the state Senate. Legislative leaders moved to intervene. They noted that North Carolina law expressly authorizes them to quote unquote intervene on the behalf of the General Assembly. They observed that in both cases of this sort of state law, blah blah blah, legislative leaders suggest that without the participation, important state interests would not be adequately represented. Finally, the legislative the parallel which they claim rapid defense. The district court denied the motion to intervene. In doing it, blah, blah, blah. Assumption that the legislative leaders' interests would be adequately represented by the governing board and their legal representative. And in time, got this. So as the federal litigation proceeded, without the legislative leader, the NAACP sought a preliminary injunction to prevent the board from enforcing SB 824 in upcoming election. Because, the racism thing. So the Fourth Circuit took up the district preliminary in the appeal concern. Separately, hoping to participate in the yeah, I'm not a legal expert, so. Oh, there we go. Our starting point lies in Rule 24A2 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. As relevant here, the rule provides that a court must permit anyone to intervene. One, on a timely motion, claims an interest relating to the property or transaction that is the subject of the action, and is so situated that disposing of the action may, as a practical matter, impair or impede the movant's ability to protect its interest, unless existing parties adequately represent that interest. Yeah, and the court said they were adequately represented. Everyone before us agrees that the motion to intervene timely. The only disagreements but ultimately this is still about North Carolina violating the 15th Amendment. Federal courts should question that. No. God. Why do they have to be so wordy and boring? I mean, I know, but uh, a federal court should. Not the board where that long legislature could make trial management impossible, which would mean that the trial is not fairly represented. But that could, uh, statutes against constitution. The leaders of the legislature to defend duly enacted state statutes against constitution. Ordinarily, if a court must respect that kind of sovereign choice, some presumptions against it having specified the terms of law. Yeah, it's yeah. The underlying dispute in this case involves voter ID law. Court denies the next week after the district court denied intervention motion. Petitioners filed a renewed again. Voter ID stuff. Always a good sign when the Supreme Court goes against voter ID. Or goes for voter ID, I should say. Dear God. They're trying to go after stuff one right after another. Admittedly, this is North Carolina, and there hasn't been an official briefing to try to get rid of the 15th Amendment, or at the very least the Voting Rights Act, but I can't guarantee with this court that they won't try. Court yeah, this is long important. But in short, the court's conclusion is the state response adequately represent petitioners' interests is, in short, the court's conclusion that state respondents adequately represented prediction that the record does not support. In addition, the court armchair hypothesizing improperly displays is the district court's first-hand experience in managing. Yeah, states are entitled to structure themselves as they wish and decide who should represent their interests in federal litigation. State law may not, however, override the federal rules of civil procedure by requiring federal courts to allow intervention by multiple state representatives who all seek to represent the same state interest that an existing state party is already capable of defending. The court concludes otherwise, I respectfully it's Supreme Court's complicated. Now we're on to the fun one. Did I say fun? I mean, I hate everything. So, Justice Alito delivered the opinion of the court. God. Another creepy old white man. I mean, that's most of the Supreme Court, but... So, Justice Alito says abortion presents a profound moral issue in which Americans hold sharply conflicting views. I mean, yes and no are sharply conflicting views, and 76% of Americans are for abortion. So yeah. Some believe fervently that the human person comes into being at conception, which is absurd because conception is when the sperm enters the egg. I don't think it's even technically become a zygote yet. Oh wait, no, that's fertilization, sorry. Conception is when it becomes the zygote. My bad. But like, yeah, and then the zygote falls out of the uterus. It doesn't connect to the tissue required for a person to actually become pregnant. So essentially, I think it's like 3/4 of the time, women have a period after conception, and that period's the baby, and being like, oh yeah, every woman who's had a period is a murderer is an absurd point of view, which is so irrational that I don't think anyone can realistically make a genuine argument for it. It's a lot of awful. And believe a human person comes into being at conception, and that abortion ends an innocent life. Periods end innocent life by that reasoning. Periods. I know they don't understand this, and I don't think they care to understand this, because I don't think they believe in the science of it, because because they can't make the argument, because there's not a lot of difference between conception before they would have to make the argument that life doesn't start until after it becomes a fetus. But if they make that argument, then abortion should be legal on immoral grounds. And because they don't want abortion to be legal, because that involves women controlling their own bodies, they decide to take the dickish approach, of course, of quote-unquote believing that life begins at conception, which is absurd, and everyone anyone, any gender, if you've had a period, no matter who you are a murderer under the Supreme Court ruling. I'm guessing. Still, others feel just as strongly that any regulation of abortion invades a woman's right to control her own body and prevents women from achieving full equality. Not just women, obviously trans men and various I almost said intersex people. I mean, some intersex people, but that's not their gender. That's their sex as classified in the archaic way. but like, uh, well, not necessarily that archaic. The importance is archaic, but like, yeah, still others in the third group think that abortion should be allowed under some but not all circumstances, and those within this group hold a variety of views about the particular restrictions that should be imposed. So, I'm a fan of bodily autonomy. It's the foundational aspect of why people shouldn't be raped. Um, and I mean, this is state going for that. For the first 185 years after the adoption of the Constitution, it was permitted to address this issue in accordance with their views and the views of its citizens. I'm pretty sure the views of the majority of citizens in every state go against this. But yeah, then in 1973, the court decided Roe v. Wade. Even though the Constitution makes no mention of abortion, yeah, the Constitution doesn't make any mention of race. Or sorry, the Constitution makes plenty of mentions of race, but not any good mentions of race. They're all bad. Court held that converts had right to obtain one. It did not claim that. So yeah, because of the right to privacy. Let me pull up Roe v. Wade. So, Roe v. Wade. Prescribed curing abortion, except on medical advice versus saving the mother's life. So, I'm looking for the general. This is super long, and I am super uneducated. So, okay. Oh yeah, that was what the look. Roe v. Wade relates to privacy. I am terrible at looking stuff up because I never do any planning. This is my failure as a human being. So, it did not claim that American law or the common law had ever recognized such a right, and its survey of history ranged from the constitutional discussion of abortion in antiquity to the plainly incorrect assertion that abortion was probably never a crime under the common law. I mean, abortion has been around since forever, and it's not going to go away. It's just going to become more and more difficult, and the more difficult things become, the more dangerous they become. After calculating a wealth of other information having no bearing on the meaning of the Constitution, disagree. Okay, I'm gonna have to look. Wait. This is genuinely bothering me. Constitutional amendment. It was with relation to due process clause of the 14th Amendment of the United States provides a fundamental right to privacy. So, due process clause 14th Amendment. So, no all persons born naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof, and are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. So this is not only not equal protection, it is abortion laws will lead to the death of women. The abortion laws in various states will. And specifically, due process clause. So, no person. Where's due process? No shall be property without due process law. Ratify that. Due process clause describe a legal obligation of all states. Assurance that all levels of the American government must operate within the law and provide fair procedures. So, basically, just a concern with procedure rather than substance, and this I might. Due process law. Clause also promises that before depriving a citizen of life, liberty, or property, the government must follow fair procedures. Thus, it is not always enough for the government just to act in accordance with whatever law there may happen to be. Citizens may also be entitled to have the government observe or offer fair procedures, whether or not those procedures have been provided for in the law on the basis of which it is acting. Action denying the process that is due would be unconstitutional. Suppose, for example, state law gives students the right to public education, but doesn't say anything about discipline, or the state could take that right away from a student by expelling her for misbehavior. It would have to provide fair procedures, i.e. due process. What counts as deprivation of life, liberty, or property? Yeah, so it is under the assumption that, I mean, these anti-abortion laws are depriving women of life. So they are, which is part of the reasoning for the court ruling, I'm sure, the Roe v. Wade. No bearing on the meaning of the Constitution. The opinion concluded with a numbered set of rules, much like those that might be found in state legislature. And the scheme, each trimester of pregnancy was regulated differently, but the most critical line was drawn at roughly the end of the second trimester, which at the time corresponded with the point which fetus was thought to achieve viability. The court acknowledged that states had a legitimate interest in protecting quote-unquote potential life. It found that this interest could not justify any restrictions on pre-viable abortion. It did not explain the basis for this line, and even abortion supporters have found it hard to defend Roe's reasoning. Okay, whatever. When prominent yeah, so 30 states still prohibited abortion at all stages. In the years prior to the decision, about a third of the states had liberalized their laws. but abruptly ended that political process. Um, it imposed the same highly restrictive regime on the entire nation and effectively struck down the abortion laws of every single state. I mean, no, because it didn't really affect laws that had been nicer or more closer to viewing women as people. Or the principle just as no desire to change Roe in any way, for others want to overrule it in its entirety, and the three main justices jointly signed the controlling opinion, like the third position. Endorse Roe's. Yeah. So, course now, the state of Mississippi asked us to uphold the constitutionality of a law that generally prohibits an abortion after the 15th week of pregnancy, several weeks before the point at which a fetus is now regarded as viable outside the womb. In defending this law, the state's primary argument is that we should reconsider an overrule of Roe v. Wade to allow each state to regulate abortion as its citizens wish. Now, I don't, because it's not it's not necessarily as citizens wish, and in fact, a lot of states have been going further and further away from the wish of the citizens. So, yeah. Yeah, this person's like Roe v. Wade must be overruled. The Constitution makes no reference to abortion. It doesn't matter if it makes no reference to abortion. It makes no reference to black people being able to vote in the Constitution originally. That had to be amended. And the 14th Amendment is essentially saying that the reason for Roe v. Wade is that the 14th Amendment says that no state shall make or enforce any law which will abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Now, I mean, there's a lot of inequality, but yeah, and the due process clause is the fair procedure thing. So, action denying the person that is due would be unconstitutional. It's process that provision has been held to guarantee some rights are not mentioned in the Constitution, but any such right must be deeply rooted in this nation's. Oh, this person's essentially arguing. These sticks are arguing that it has to be rooted in the nation's history. Which is a very weak interpretation, in my opinion. But also, dear God, care about the fucking humanity of people. Until the latter part of the 20th century, such right was entirely unknown in American law. When the 14th Amendment was adopted, three-quarters of the states made abortion a crime at all stages of pregnancy. I hate. I characterize the abortion right as similar to past decisions involving matters such as intimate sexual relations, contraception, and marriage. This person's arguing that abortion is fundamentally different. Because first, what those decisions call fetal life, and what the law now before us describes as unborn. Ugh. I hate this. I hate this so much. So much. So, I need to come into the issue of abortion. Yeah, it's legislate made a series of factual findings. Time enactment, only 6 countries besides the United States permitted non-therapeutic or elective abortion on demand after the. Yeah, so who fucking gives a shit? Just that question. Hate this. I the rising tradition. The fucking church. This is the country where the founding fathers, the founding fathers or whatever, want the Constitution rewritten every 20 years. So like, is guard against the natural human tendency, what the amendment protects, with our own ardent views about what the liberty that Americans. And clearly, one of the liberties that Americans shouldn't enjoy, the right to control their own bodies. Clearly. This is. I hate this. I hate this on fundamental philosophical. And I apologize if I'm skimming, but this is 213 pages long. The latter part of the 20th century, there was no support in American law for a constitutional right to obtain an abortion. And then people woke the fuck up. The state constitutional provision had recognized such a right. Cool. You're fucker. And at least after quickening the common law under which abortion was a crime, at least after quickening the first felt movement of the fetus, in which 16 pregnancy. Yeah, which means if abortion was if historical common law says abortion not be a crime until after quickening, then shouldn't you go back to that by your reasoning in terms of the rights to liberty? But that would involve becoming too close to the previous too close to Roe v. Wade being correct. So clearly they don't like that. Cool, a bunch of ancient abortion laws. said the charge of abortion with the mention of Christian had never met with the Bible. I don't know enough about this. 1730. Full of common laws. And 2, which did not distinguish between pre-quickening and post-quickening, described version pernicious and against the peace of Our Lady the Queen, her crown and dignity. Oh, yeah, you should totally look to these people on what to do. With the common law, well, I mean, it did. But there's no reason to think that they weren't talking about. If they only thought about abortions in terms of post-quickening, and they didn't even think of them as abortions pre-quickening, then yeah, them not mentioning the post or pre-quickening doesn't matter. And also the life of the pregnant person kind of matters. And the way states are going, they don't care about women or trans men. They especially don't care about trans men, and definitely not any NB. Proto felony murder. Hale and Blackstone explained a way in which pre-quickening abortion could rise to the level. Hale wrote that if a physician, Hale and Black wrote that physician gave a woman with child a potion to cause an abortion, and the woman died, it was murder. Because the potion was given unlawfully to the child with. Okay, but that's where a killing had to be done with malicious. Yeah, if the woman dies from an abortion tincture, that's not anti-abortion. That's saying that doctors shouldn't kill their patients. There's no mention of killing had been done with malicious aforethought or implied. Blackstone wrote the law will imply malice for the same reason malice. One person accidentally killed a different person. Okay, but like, so also if a woman gives with child a medicine, it operates so violently to kill the woman. This is murder in the but like. Yeah, but this has nothing to do. That this is not abortion. This is abortion related very tangentially. None of these statements relate to the abortion being the problem. The problem is if a woman dies from the attempted abortion. That's what this is about. This isn't about. This isn't real evidence for it. This is a cherry-picked bullshit. This is all fucking cherry-picked bullshit. They don't even have common law on their side. And that was I believe they mentioned earlier that was the reason for Roe v. Wade, it not being illegal to pre-quickening abortions not being illegal. And yeah, that seems to be the case. Not endorse the practice. Okay, but like endorsing it and having an issue with it and fighting against it are two very different things. And also, this is when women didn't have the right to vote. This is when women didn't have right. Blackstone's statement that abortion of a quick child was at least a heinous misdemeanor. That doesn't sound like the laws getting passed. It sounds like this person they're referring to from like 1800s is further left than the Republican Party is now. I absolutely hate this. Yeah, no, it's very much this person's ignoring the important part. If the woman died, yeah, it's murder. If the doctor kills a person, even if unintentionally, it's just an increase in how bad the murder is. So this person who wrote, I said 1800s, I think a lot of the writing was so, yeah, this is not. No, this is very much with relation if it kills, but yeah, since like late 1700s, it's the common law rule. Yeah, it. And yeah, this is ignoring the part where it's talking about killing the woman who happens to be pregnant. This is murder, murderously endeavor to destroy or murder. That must be murder. Ancient word. Murderously endeavor to destroy the child by him begotten it. Yeah, no, this is all about that. Historically, abortion has not been legal after 16 to 18 weeks. This is mm, trying to bring science into it. They don't fucking understand science because they don't understand conception is not. If you say conception means that life begins at conception, then every person out there who has ever had a period is a murderer potentially, who's had a period and who's had sex with a man or has been raped by a man or has raped a man or yeah, generally a man with the appropriate whatever, you get the point. At the time, there's no scientific methods for detecting pregnancy in its early stages, and thus start put it in 1872 until the period written whatever my yeah, and life began at the breath of in the first breath after being the kid was born. Before questioning, Kamala did not regard the fetus as having a separate and independent Oh, in the 19th century, it was abandoned. Oh, in the 19th century, there started to be more dicks. Oh, but what about the ancient common laws? In the 19th century, in a lot of the 19th century, slavery was still legal in America for half the 19th century. I don't give a shit about what the 19th century is. Abortion authorized the imposition of punishment. One scholar suggests that Parliament's decision may partially have been attributable to the medical man's concern that fetal life should be protected by the law at all stages of gestation. I mean, it's not fetal life until a certain number of weeks. It's it's just an embryo before that, but sure, dumbass. Uh, all of them criminalized abortion and all stages of pregnancy between 1850 and 1919. Oh, what? 1850? That wasn't any fucking slavery going on there. Oh wait, yes, there was. All but four states had the and the District of Columbia prohibited abortion. However, and whenever performed, unless done to save or preserve the life of the mother, which not all states care about. Um, although road is living in about one. Uh, uh, Court's opinion itself convincingly refutes the notion that abortion liberty is deeply rooted in the spiritual tradition of our people. I mean, it's definitely in the tradition, but sure, we can just ignore that as they ignore science and the Constitution. But also, prohibiting abortion on pain of common law, but it's not all abortion. It prohibited abortion after quickening, but it didn't prohibit all abortion until uh, uh change. Attitudes towards abortion have changed, and we should like keep up with the time because people learn things and people learn how not to harm the general populace. Oh, by it the majority of states criminalized abortion. You know, before black people and women could vote. Oh my god. It's almost like I don't give a shit what the opinion of uh the privileged Americans of the 1800s was. I care about what people's opinions actually are now. Established when able to show that the abortion was established when the 14th Amendment was adopted, but they have found no support for the existence of abortion that predates the latter part of the. Okay, but like there's nothing in the Constitution that supported black people having the right to vote. Uh and even that was not defended. strongly until the latter part of the 20th century. Yes, women being having the right to vote wasn't really fought for until early part of the 20th century. It's all uh, uh, that historical arguments. There's a ton of don't murder women who happen to be pregnant accidentally. Don't accidentally kill pregnant women, and um, don't have abortions after the quickening are is very clear historical evidence, and this awful awful people. Um, uh, oh, because the insistence of quickening was not universal. That was they didn't like assume things. Oh, now that they're saying that the states didn't lack authority to do all that stuff, that means we should ignore 14th Amendment rulings. Let's just turn back the America to the 1700s. I see no problem here. It's not like we tried to improve things because we saw there were problems with laws. Uh, Get this person. And here's ample. Master laws was instead spurred by a sincere belief that abortion kills a human being, although lack of abortion kills human beings. And yeah, people can believe shit. People believed that black people were lesser um, during a lot of these legal times. There's a lot of people who believe black people are lesser. There's still people today that do that. Um, that doesn't make that true. And, and that makes right to privacy. And that was the right freedom to make intimate and personal choices that are central to personal dignity and autonomy. Was the argument for Roe v. Wade, and the argument for um people being able to be in loving relationships, that loving consensual relationships, however they manifest. The heart of liberty is to define one's own conception of existence, of meaning, and of the universe and the mystery of human life. Do not claim this brother from right is for such claim, nor and no such claim would be plausible. Well, individuals are certainly free to think and to say what they wish about existence, being in the universe, and the mystery of human life, they are not always free to act in accordance with those thoughts. License to act on the basis of such beliefs may correspond to one of the many understandings of liberty, but certainly not ordered. But certainly not ordered liberty, where liberty sets limits and defines boundaries between competing interests. So, what's the competing interest? What the fuck are you saying? This person saying? They're saying the competing interest is what? To your own personal privacy. What's the competing interest? Potential life, but the people of the may evaluate those interests differently. Some states voters believe that abortion right should be more extensive and state restrictions of ordered liberty does not prevent people, elected representatives, from deciding how abortion should be regulated. So, but that is deciding, that is taking the right to, I mean, essentially saying suicide should be crime. Where are you gonna give a death sentence to someone who commits suicide? Like, word liberty sets limits and redefines them. Whereas in other states may wish to control other people by reenacting slavery. So this argument is essentially an argument. The argument of ordered liberty this person's making is actually an argument that states should decide what whether or not you have various forms of liberty, and that includes slavery. This argument could be made for slavery. This weird version of what it means to have ordered liberty. There's the right to obtain abortion, have a sound basis and precedent. Cool. Don't care. That is why court rulings occur. That's why precedent is made, because of argument about at the heart of liberty is the right to define one's own conception of existence, of meaning, of the universe, and of the mystery of human life. Freedom to make intimate and personal choices that are central to personal dignity and autonomy. Roe v. Wade is essentially an argument that bodily autonomy is a fundamental liberty in life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. A position I personally agree with strongly, but this judge and four others clearly don't agree with it. So where's the right to on cases involving the right to marry a person of a different race. 1967. Right to marry while in prison. The right to obtain contraceptives. Which Griswold is also going to be looked at, and it wouldn't surprise me if Loving v. Virginia will also be looked at, because Instead v. Bard, Carey v. Population Services, the right to reside with relatives, the right to make decisions about the education of one's children, the right not to be sterilized without consent. I know the IC doesn't give a shit about that, right? The right in certain circumstances not to undergo involuntary surgery, forced administration of drugs, or other substantially similar procedures. Yeah, this is all with relation to bodily autonomy. So yes, this fits into the right to marry person of the same sex, which also is going to be they're going to try to take away these attempts to justify abortion through appeals to broader right to autonomy, the bodily autonomy, and define one's concept of existence prove too much. Apparently, bodily autonomy is too fucking much. This jackass. The concept of liberty is based on fundamentally on autonomy. Liberty as a concept. Every aspect of liberty has always been about autonomy. It's about you making your own choices. What you do with your own body, what you do with your money, what you do with your property, all this stuff. This is the concept of liberty. On a fundamental level, this person is saying that they are against liberty. This Supreme Court judge and 4 others are arguing against liberty. Those criteria, at a high level of generality, could license fundamental right to illicit drug use and prostitution and the like. Which, I don't disagree that wait, how did I press space? Oh. I press space. Blah, 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 blah. And there's a bunch of precedents. Oh yeah, there we go. Those criteria, at a high level of generality, could license fundamental rights to illicit drug use, prostitution, and the like. Both those things, by the way, should be legal. Illicit drug use should be legal in terms of bodily autonomy. It is an aspect of liberty. Yes, this is not a bad thing. Illicit drug use didn't start becoming illegal. Illicit drug use becoming illegal is something that was not present in the founding of our country. This is a new concept. This is a new law. It's not based off of precedents. All the arguments that person made essentially are also arguing against preventing illicit drug use. Prostitution similarly, depending on the area, the laws. Prostitution has in terms of ancient legal stuff, prostitution has been around forever, and there isn't actually an argument. If you're talking about from a standpoint of liberty, you should have the right to illicit drug use, and you should have the right to become a prostitute if you want. None of these rights has any claim to being deeply rooted in history. Illicit drug use has shit tons of history. We didn't, and most of the anti-drug use stuff is started with racism. People didn't want people being too much around Chinese people, so they made opium illegal after flooding the market previously by the British government or whatever. Abortion destroys what those systems call "quote unquote" potential life. That I'm a potential billionaire. Oh no! You've destroyed my right of potential billionaireship by not giving me $1 billion. Like what the fuck does potential life? With a lot of issues in this case regards the life of an unborn human being. Abortion is inherently different. Abortion is, and these are just involve the critical moral question posed by abortion. Do people who can have who have periods have bodily autonomy? Therefore, in right to obtain abortion. In token, our conclusion that the Constitution does not confer such a right. Yeah, no, this Constitution is so much liberty. Liberty as a philosophical concept was so much in the founding of the all the stuff with relation to the Constitution, like bodily autonomy is very important. And admittedly, this is all against the founding fathers, but also the people who founded America would have been fine with illicit drug use and prostitution, and potentially fine with probably fine with abortion pre-quickening. So, person wants to make the country more conservative than what it was in the 1700s. Um, this is very candid. I kind of show the constitutional right to abortion has any foundation. It definitely has foundation in liberty. Because just cannot argue that the abortion right. Constitutional tradition. Oh wait, is this the? Yeah. This is an analogy that the dissent draws between the abortion right and the rights recognized in Griswold, contraception, Eisenstadt same-sex marriage, or no, same-sex marriage. Eisenstadt is also contraception. Lawrence, same-sex sexual activity. That's the part on page like 45. This long ass document talking about the issues of that. Sorry, I mean, sorry, decisive. Legal principle of determining points in litigation according to precedent. Yeah. It's arguing against these precedent. No justice in the court has ever argued that court should never overrule a constitutional decision, but overruling a precedent is a serious matter. It's not a step that should be taken lightly. Our case have attempted to provide a framework for when a precedent should be overruled. Identified factors. Uh, 5 factors. Yeah. Uh, quality of disagree about weakness of reasoning based off the evidence provided in this document by uh, 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 I do not like the opinion of Bible speculation determining is thus with difficult metaphysical probability and even probability of survival could be ascertained with certainty without settling on probability that should count as a 10% chance. I mean, you can just do statistics. And such by a state. A state. Various workability are precedents. Counsel that other important consideration in deciding whether a precedent should be overruled is whether the rule it imposes is workable. That is, whether it can be understood and applied in a consistent and predictable manner. I'm pretty sure bodily autonomy could be. I mean, they refuse to, but like, bodily autonomy can very much be applied in a consistent, predictable manner. Undo justice. I don't know. Oh, undo. That's not something that's talked about. Well, third rule complicates the picture more. Under that rule, unnecessary health regulations that have the purpose or effect of presenting a substantial obstacle to a woman seeking an abortion and undue burden on the right. Yeah, because it is essentially saying that the more hoops you have people go through, the more uh, risk of trauma and someone causing harm to them. Nitpicky stuff about ambiguity. Different people have different opinions. And I'm not saying Roe v. Wade shouldn't be potentially updated to have a stronger opinion constitution updated with some stuff, but like shouldn't be like overturned. The amount of harm that's being caused on so many people. Uh, facial. I've disregarded the standard. Traditional reliance interests arise where advanced rate is unable to. Lister Channel suggests that overruling those decisions would threaten the court's precedents, holding that the due process clause protects other rights. And then saying Lawrence. That's not correct for reasons, you know. Oh god. This is follow our orders or else attitude. I hate all of this. Okay. Blah 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 blah. And then this stating where we begin. Abortion presents a profound moral question. Um, yeah, whether or not you believe in liberty as a concept. Um, Liberty, the quality, the power to do as one pleases, the freedom from physical restraint, freedom from arbitrary or despotic control, the positive enjoyment of various social, political, or economic rights and privileges, the power of choice, the quality or state of being free. So, that is the concept of liberty. This is going against all of that. This court's opinion. The Constitution does not prohibit citizens from regulating and prohibiting abortion, which is prohibiting the power to do as one pleases, with not factoring in harming others. Obviously, the power of choice. It's getting rid of the power of choice. You no longer have the choice to have an abortion. Positive enjoyment of various social, political, or economic rights and privileges. That's also being taken away. Freedom from arbitrary or despotic control. That's actually the main freedom. Freedom from arbitrary or despotic control is like the concept of liberty that's being attacked here. Explicitly attacked here. Now, overrule the system, turn the authority to the people, their elected representative, which is their arbitrary despot. I mean, technically, their power is not absolute. But legitimate circumstances first, and the case is remanded for further consideration. is so ordered. Yeah, this is awful. Oh, well, the states that went against Bush. Nice. That makes everything better. Oh, no, it doesn't. Taking away people's liberty, uh, or, you know, hey, God, I hate this, and I video, and or with intent to, or with intent to protect the mis. Odd. Obviously, Justice Thomas agreed. I don't. Uh, Justice Thomas, Justice Kavanaugh. Justice Robert. Like more of the same asserts of. So, Justice Breyer, Justice Sotomayor, and Justice Kagan dissenting. Protected liberty and equality of women, which is true. All the substantial opposite. The court discards that balance. It says that from the very moment of fertilization, one has no rights to speak of. A state can force her to bring pregnancy to term, even at the steepest personal and familial costs. An abortion restriction the majority holds is permissible whenever rational, the lowest level of scrutiny known to the law. And because, as the court has often stated, protecting fetal life is rational, states will feel free to enact all manner of restrictions. Uh, the Mississippi law at issue here bars abortions after the 15th week of pregnancy under the majority ruling, though another state's law could do so after 10 weeks or 5, 3, or 1, or again from the moment of fertilization. States have already passed such laws in anticipation for today's ruling. More will follow. Some states have enacted laws extending to all forms of abortion procedure, including taking medication in one's own home, bodily autonomy. They have passed laws without exceptions for when the woman is a victim of rape or incest. Under those laws, a woman will have to bear her rapist's child or a young girl her father's, no matter if doing so will destroy her life. So too, after today's rulings, some states may compel women to carry to term a fetus with severe physical anomalies, with sex disease sure to die within a few years of birth. States may even argue that prohibition on abortion need make no provision for protecting a woman from risk of death or physical harm. Across a vast array of circumstances, a state will be able to impose its moral choice on a woman and coerce her to give birth to a child. Enforcement of all these draconian restrictions will also be left largely to states' devices, and it'll be vastly against liberty. Impose criminal penalties and martial including lengthy prison sentences. yeah, it's whatever exact scope of the cause. One result of today's decision is certain: the curtailment of women's rights and their status as free and equal citizens, which is the 14th Amendment, which is the due process, free and equal, or their status is free and equal citizens. Yesterday, the Constitution guaranteed that a woman confronted with an unplanned pregnancy could, within reasonable limits, make her own decision about whether to bear a child, with all the transforming consequences that act involves, and in thus safeguarding women's reproductive freedom. The Constitution also protected of women to participate equally in economic and social life, but no longer. As of today, this court holds a state can always force a woman to give birth, prohibiting even the earliest abortions. A state can thus transform what, when freely undertaken, is a wonder into what, then, when forced, may be a nightmare. Some women, especially women of means, will find ways around the state's assertion of power. By the way, this applies obviously to men and non-binary people as well. And this bring up unsafe abortions. Yeah, it's just start just Latin phrase for foundation of stone of the rule of law, that things decided should stay decided unless there's a good reason to change. Judicial modesty and humility, those qualities are not evident in today's opinion. True. I think I might be emotionally dead from this. Very, yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to call it a day. Basically, the Supreme Court has gone after voter rights. It's gone after, it's voting rights of people of color. It's gone after bodily autonomy in all forms, and it's gonna keep going after rights protected by 14th and 15th Amendments of the Constitution. This court doesn't care about the majority of this court does not care about the Constitution. And I am tired. Very tired of this bullshit.